Think about it for a second. The trust we put in people every single day. You open your door for a delivery, let a repair person in. It's this sort of background trust, right? Almost invisible. But what happens when that trust isn't just, broken? What if it's turned into a weapon inside your own home, turning safety into, wow, into absolute terror?
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going deep into a really disturbing case from Noida, in India. It shines a harsh light on exactly that kind of breach. We've looked closely at the source material, police reports, news articles, victim statements. They detail this shocking incident, a grocery delivery guy, an assault, and then this 2-month blackmail campaign. It's chilling stuff.
Yeah.
So our mission today isn't just to lay out the facts. We want to really unpack this, understand the perpetrator's moves. They seem very calculated, understand the victim's awful experience, and also figure out what this tells us about vulnerabilities in modern life, especially where, physical danger meets digital threats. We're digging for the key insights here to help you really grasp this incident and what it means for safety, for trust today.
Okay, let's start with the initial event. The moment an everyday interaction went terrifyingly wrong. The sources, they paint this picture of a young man, 23 years old, named Gaurav. He worked as a hairdresser, but also delivered groceries. And he regularly brought milk, other items, to this woman's apartment in Greater Noida. So he wasn't a total stranger, a familiar face, part of her routine, someone associated with, convenience, just a normal transaction, you'd think. But then, July 10th, everything changes. Gaurav shows up at her flat. Apparently he just wanted to talk, but once he was inside, that pretense just vanished. The sources say he pulled out a knife immediately. And this is where it gets incredibly disturbing. He held the knife to her young son's neck. Her son was sleeping.
Yeah, the sheer terror of that moment, it's hard to fathom, threatening a sleeping child.
Absolutely. And the threats were explicit. According to the sources, her own words were, "When I refused, he threatened to kill my children. He said he would throw my daughter into a drain. Fearing for their lives, I complied." So under that horrific pressure, fearing for her kids, he forced her to undress, and he recorded videos, took photos. He used her deepest fear, her children's safety, to force her compliance. It's just methodical cruelty.
It really is. And what strikes me, looking at the source accounts, is how calculated it all feels. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing, seemingly. It feels like a deliberate targeting, exploiting that primal maternal instinct. He weaponized the very safety of her home, her children, to get what he wanted. And it really throws into sharp relief this potential vulnerability in the gig economy, right?
Yeah.
Where convenience sometimes comes with, well, maybe not enough vetting.
Right, that trust we talked about.
Exactly. These roles, especially in-home services, sometimes have low barriers to entry. And if the oversight, the background checks, aren't robust enough,
Yeah.
well, you see how these vulnerabilities can open up. It makes you ask, what is enough vetting when you let someone into your home?
That's such a critical point, the convenience we all rely on, but this hidden fragility underneath. And it wasn't just that one horrific incident. It didn't end there. No, the assault was just the beginning. It turned into the sustained campaign, psychological terror, control for over 2 months. He didn't just vanish. He made sure she lived in constant fear. The sources detail his tactics. He kept coming back to her flat, repeatedly, not just once or twice, reinforcing the threat, warning her, don't go to the police. You can only imagine the psychological torment, living under that constant shadow, your home not safe anymore. And here's a detail that really underscores his audacity, his obsession. Apparently, on one occasion, he scaled her 4th-floor balcony. At night.
Scaled the balcony, good grief.
Yeah. Climbed up 4 floors. Just think about that. The lengths he went to maintain that control, that fear. Her home was basically turned into a prison. No escape.
That detail, the balcony scaling, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? This whole 2-month campaign, as you called it, shows a deliberate shift. It moved from that initial physical violence to something more insidious, sustained psychological torment. The groundwork was laid in that first assault, but the ongoing threats, his repeated presence, it was all designed to keep her terrified, subservient.
Breaking her down bit by bit.
Exactly, eroding her agency, her hope, and climbing that balcony. It's not just about physical access, it's a statement, an extreme display of obsession, of his determination to keep that psychological grip. It shows how completely someone's personal space, their sanctuary, can be violated again and again, turning it into a source of constant anxiety. Isolation and the threat of exposure, they become powerful weapons, a prison without bars, like you said.
It's just, calculated terror. And eventually, something had to give. This unrelenting pressure finally led to a breaking point, mostly because Gaurav escalated things again, this time using digital tools in a devastating way. It was September 2nd when she finally made the call to the police emergency line. And when you hear what he did that day, you understand why she had no other choice. So, on that day, he blew it all wide open, publicly. He sent those explicit videos, the ones he forced her to be in, to her husband.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Her husband was working far away in Ahmedabad. Imagine getting that. And then, as if that wasn't enough description, he uploaded some of the clips to social media, just out there for anyone to see, amplifying the violation, the humiliation massively.
That's a whole different level of cruelty.
It is. And then, to top it all off, seemingly to witness the fallout, he showed up at her door again, around 6 a.m. that same day. This combination, the digital sharing, the social media posting, and then showing up in person again, it feels like the ultimate act of trying to destroy her life. Her relationships, her standing, everything, utterly exposed.
Yeah, the digital element here is profoundly significant. Sending those videos to her husband, posting them online, that's a critical escalation. It's calculated. It moves beyond coercion or private blackmail into public shaming, deliberately trying to wreck her personal life, her social connections.
It's weaponizing shame.
Precisely. And it highlights this really ugly intersection in modern crime, doesn't it? Physical assault amplified just horrifically by digital tools. But it's more than just amplification, I think. It introduces this idea of maybe like a permanent violation. Because digital content, once it's out there,
It doesn't go away.
right, it can be found again, shared again. It's almost impossible to erase completely. That creates this ongoing trauma, this violation that can live indefinitely online. It's a really difficult challenge. How do our legal systems, how do we deal with crimes that create such lasting public harm through digital means?
That concept of a permanent violation, it's incredibly chilling. And it speaks to, a whole new kind of vulnerability we face now. Thankfully, this final awful escalation did lead to action. The sources say Gaurav actually fled before the police got to his place, but they did catch up with him later. He was apprehended and arrested. So at least there's that measure of justice initiated. And the charges he's facing, they really reflect this hybrid nature of the crime we've been talking about. He's booked under sections of India's new criminal code, the BNS. So specifically, Section 76, that's for assault with intent to disrobe, and Section 351, which covers criminal intimidation.
Okay.
But crucially, he's also charged under the IT Act that specifically addresses the digital crimes, the sharing of those videos, and his phone. Seized. Vital evidence, obviously. Plus, the investigation isn't stopping there. Police are looking into whether he targeted anyone else, which suggests, this might not be isolated, could be a pattern.
And that blend of charges is important. Assault, intimidation, those are traditional criminal acts. But adding the IT Act charges acknowledges the reality of crimes like this today. They span both physical and digital worlds. Seizing his phone is key, absolutely. It could hold evidence, potentially identify other victims, confirm if this was part of a pattern, like you said.
Right.
The fact that police are looking broader suggests they recognize this vulnerability, especially for women. In these everyday service interactions, it really pushes our legal systems to adapt, doesn't it? How do you investigate effectively? How do you ensure justice when the crime scene is both a physical apartment and the digital space? What new tools, what new approaches are needed?
Big questions, and ones that are becoming more urgent all the time, it feels like. So as we wrap up this deep dive into this really disturbing Noida case, let's just quickly recap the core things we've pulled out. We saw that calculated exploitation of a mother's deepest fears, turning a simple delivery into a total nightmare. We saw the terrifying way a single assault spiraled into this long, drawn-out campaign of psychological control over 2 months. And we saw the devastating power of digital tools used not just to control, but to humiliate publicly, creating that sense of maybe permanent violation. This case is just a stark, sobering look at the vulnerabilities that can hide in plain sight. In interactions we barely think twice about, especially when our homes are involved. It really forces you to think about that balance, doesn't it? Between the convenience we want, the services we need, and the trust we have to place in people entering our private space.
It does. And maybe the thought to leave you with is this. How do we navigate this as individuals, as a society? We need these services. The convenience is part of modern life. But how do we build in more vigilance, maybe new kinds of vigilance, against these breaches of trust? Especially as technology keeps evolving, creating new ways to exploit people. What more can be done? By us, by communities, by the platforms providing these services? How do we protect against this blend of physical and digital threats that this case just lays bare so brutally? How do we make sure convenience doesn't constantly come at the price of safety?